Why, hello again, Twisted Metal fans. My name is Hunter, and today we're going to be talking about the second season of the Twisted Metal TV show and what they could potentially do just based on what we've seen in the trailer. I know how much my opinion about the show matters to you all. Oh, well, fuck it. Why, hello again, Twisted Metal fans. While I was working on the video and getting pretty close to finishing it, a second trailer dropped along with some leaks. So now, I'll be interjecting with new and updated info that I just didn't have in the first trailer. See you soon. Allow me to quickly summarize my Season 1 review for those of you who didn't see it. Where the fuck's the Twisted Metal? A lot of people made the argument that Season 1 was just a separate tournament in Season 2, which I argued is bullshit. Because how the fuck does a whole episode of fucking in a Burger King do anything for a story about cars exploding other cars? But anyway, enough of Season 1. We're talking Season 2 now, where we finally have a Twisted Metal tournament. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pensive, but still hoping they can get it done. After all, the fight at the end of the last season between everyone was legit good fun. If you can give me a whole season of that, then I'm all in. Hey there, I'm already back. Since writing this, the second trailer dropped for Season 2, and it was a glorious thing. The music was right, there was car action galore, and it wasn't just guns either, as we had plenty of missiles and explosions. Everything I wanted in Season 1 was in this trailer. I've watched that sumbitch probably like 15-20 times now, and you can tell it wasn't a final episode scene, so I'm hopeful for more car action like this spread throughout the entire season. Now, there have been tons of videos closely analyzing the trailer, looking for Easter eggs and tidbits and all that. I'm not doing that. I'm doing the opposite, if anything. I'm kind of taking a step back. Kind of like the series did after Twisted Metal 2. Aw shit, here comes the angry comments. I want to take a broad look at the characters themselves, look at their vehicles either in the show or the game they come from, and try and speculate how they're going to fit into the story of Season 2. There will be a decent amount of speculation on my part, but I'll show my work as much as possible. So without further ado, let's quit rambling and actually get to some fucking content around here. Let's start with the characters we see in the trailer for Season 2. The first of which is, of course, John Doe, the main character of the show. Now, interestingly, we won't be seeing John Doe drive Roadkill, since Quiet drove away with it after shooting John Doe in front of New San Francisco. It was satisfying to see John Doe get behind the wheel of the Roadkill Camaro, so to have it taken away from him sucks. I realize that with the financial backing of Raven, the leader of New San Francisco, John Doe's next vehicle could be anything. I combed through the Season 2 trailer and never saw anything to me that looked conclusively to be his new vehicle, so that'll be a fun surprise for when the show drops. So in the second trailer for Season 2, we see him jump back into Roadkill with Quiet behind the wheel. So at some point they make up, I guess, which is good. A John Doe does need a Roadkill. Story-wise, we're of course going to see some sort of closure between John Doe and Quiet. They could surprise us and have them not get back together, but I'm just going to go ahead and assume that they will. Last season they spent like 6 days together and got together and broke up like 5 different times. There is also, of course, the tease at the end of Season 1, where Quiet gets surrounded by John's sister and her army of shrieking Dollfaces. But after blasting through the trailer, I didn't see many people wearing those masks, unfortunately. Then again, it's hard to do justice to a gimmick that peaked at its debut. Models who want to be pretty forever or apocalyptic girl gangs don't mean shit compared to being nailed and locked into a mask that is slowly crushing your skull as you grow into an adult. Anyway, back on track here. John Doe will obviously be reuniting with his sister at some point. I'm sure there'll be plenty of dramatics there. John will also need to, of course, deal with winning the tournament, getting back together with Quiet, and finally getting out of his current arrangement with Raven. The next character to discuss is obviously Quiet. She took Roadkill after shooting John Doe so he'd live his dream in New San Francisco. We see Roadkill driving around in the Season 2 trailer, so safe to say that's the vehicle she is driving. Now, as far as story goes, Quiet no longer has any family since Loud was killed, and she successfully got her revenge on Agent Stone by killing him. But going forward, she still has to deal with her currently broken relationship with John Doe, whatever John's sister Dollface wants with her at the end of season 1, and of course, she still has her current Robin Hood thing she's doing. And of course, we all know the dramatic moment is coming when she'll come face to face with John during the tournament. We'll probably get some quippy insults back and forth till one saves the other and they reconcile. As mentioned earlier, we saw John Doe is back with Quiet. I just want to remind everyone of that. The final obvious character is, of course, our mascot, Sweet Tooth. Now, we saw him ditch the Sweet Tooth ice cream truck during the fight in the final episode of Season 1, but there's no proof it got destroyed or lost. So they can either have Sweet Tooth driving the same truck, or take the opportunity and have him drive a different version. Now, I don't think they're going to give him a dark tooth or anything like that, but the opportunity to make a change is present. As far as story goes, I don't think we should expect much more added to his lore. The Asylum episode last season where we learned about his backstory was surprising and even kind of fun. But Sweet Tooth's role in this story is essentially just to be the Terminator, an unstoppable badass who can't be killed and apparently delivers some really cheap one-liners. Trailer 2 for the new season shows us that Sweet Tooth is back in the same ice cream truck he was in for season 1, and he even gets to deliver a cheap one-liner where he proclaims that he's been waiting minutes to do this, as he launches some cone missiles at Mr. Grimm. Now, let's take a look at some of the other characters we saw. We'll start with who I assume is Goggle Eyes from Twisted Metal 4, since they're driving an exterminator van with a bug on top, similar to the Roach Coach that Goggle Eyes drives. As far as story beats go, I have almost no expectations. Goggle Eye's whole gimmick in Twisted Metal 4 was creating a super poison to rid the world of bugs. Very engaging writing, Twisted Metal 4. I'm just going to assume that they will have no real effect on the overall story, outside of perhaps a single episode they fight in. That episode will probably get a small flashback that shows their backstory. We can almost be guaranteed to hear some bug references like, "You bug me," or "like flies to honey," and that's really about all I think we can expect. So, update for our exterminator friend here. According to the leaks, they are apparently not going to be called Goggle Eyes, and are instead called Vermin, which is a reference to the exterminator van from Twisted Metal 2012. That's about it though, that's all we have. Another character featured who I don't expect much from is the driver of the plow truck that has something like Snowsquall Plowing written on the side. The driver herself looking like one tall piece of winterized bitch. Now, I didn't notice any other weapons on her Chevy aside from her plow, but I hope they give her something a little more than that. Now, as a Canadian who deals with 6 months of winter out of the year and is currently green screened into his very own 2004 Chevy, I feel a certain connection with this character. Which is a shame, because I expect even less story from her than I did with Goggle Eyes. I expect no flashback or anything like that. At most, maybe a few lines of expository dialogue like, "That's the Snow Queen. She's going to wish for snow all year round, so she'll be rich." Then they can kill her off with a line about how it's too hot in the desert for her. It's that sort of thing, you know what I mean. The second trailer didn't expand much on what I just said, besides showing us that the correct name on the truck is Snowsquall Plow, which, let's face it, my name of Snowsquall Plowing is much better. That, and we do get to see that the plow itself is armed with 2 guns, so good. This next one's going to be a bit touchy. In the garage scene, we see many vehicles. One of the honor ducks is, of course, a person on an ATV, which is a reference to ATV, which is driven by Gene Ruttish in Twisted Metal Head-On. Now, there really isn't much to say about ATV, both in the game or the TV show, so I won't. What is kind of interesting is that in one of the shots, I swear, and I'll slow it down and I'll try to zoom in here, it looks like either Dollface or one of the Dollface members is driving it, meaning I suppose we're going to be seeing a lot of ATV throughout the season. I'm fine with ATV if it means we don't try and reuse vehicles that were already referenced in the first season. I'm specifically referencing the Juggernaut that the trucker convoy used, which sure seemed like a dark side reference to me. So I hope they don't give the Dollfaces a black truck of their own and call it Darkside. That'd feel cheap. So yes, in the second trailer we do in fact see that Dollface, or at least a Dollface, is driving the ATV. Although weirdly we don't see any other Dollface members. The next driver to appear in the trailer is of course one that pretty much everyone's excited about. myself included, except for possibly a single exception later on in the video. And that is Axel, who's driving the signature Axel rig. Now, I'm curious how they're going to try and make Axel even semi-realistic, like they tried with all of the other vehicles in the first season. The first season was full of people using firearms and melee weapons in places of missiles and napalm that the games are known for. So, in that reality, how does a dude T-posing shirtless stand a chance? Will they give him body armor? Will he have some sort of shield? Will he have a fucking EMP field that deflects bullets like Fortune from Metal Gear Solid 2? Or do we just rely on the suspension of disbelief and go with it? I'm interested to see. As far as story goes, I don't want to see a modern interpretation of Axel's Alabama daddy strapping him into the vehicle. Equally, I don't want to see any other interpretation of Axel's backstory. That said, it's a guarantee we'll get some sort of flashback about how he decided to become one with his machine. It's just far too juicy a plot point to do nothing with. I just hope that whatever story they do give Axel, it doesn't make me cringe. I hope they actually do without the humor for a moment and give Axel a serious story. His own story aside, I imagine he'll be used as a looming threat that is always on their heels or is always winning his matches on the way to the finals. I'm still not really sure how the tournament's run. I assume a character that popular, he'll have to be one of the last opponents John Doe will face. Axel is easily the unofficial mascot of Twisted Metal, and is arguably more popular than the series mascot, Sweet Tooth. So it'd be a shame to kill him off earlier, underutilize him in any way. Ooh-wee, Axel! So first off, in the second trailer, we get a brief glimpse of Axel, and he is in fact shirtless with no armor. We even see a bullet bounce off his inner tire, just missing him. So, we are going to go with the suspension of disbelief route for his armor and survival. Also, since he is here, and I assume that this isn't the final episode, I suppose we'll be seeing a lot of Axel throughout the season once he's introduced. Finally, I mentioned I had no clue how the tournament is run. Well, the trailer has at least shown us some of it, as each character in the trailer can be seen carrying a backpack with 3 green lights on it. I assume it'll be a fight to the death as they all race from point A to point B, kind of like Carmageddon. The next vehicle is a reference I almost missed. If we take a look at the garage scene, we see that the vehicle beside the Snowsquall Plow is a green pickup truck with a yellow dog on the side of it. Now, my eyes are shit, and the scene is lit like a gonzo porn, but I'm going to assume it's a tow truck, as there was a green tow truck with a yellow dog logo in Twisted Metal 2012 called Junkyard Dog. And while we don't see a driver, there was also a tow truck in Twisted Metal Black called Junkyard Dog that was driven by Billy Ray Stillwell. Now, by no means do I expect a Billy Ray Stillwell character to actually be driving it. I would hate to see this goofy show version of Billy Ray Stillwell getting poisoned by a crop duster so the pilot can deep dick Billy's wife, only for Billy to survive all mutated and catch them in the act. I assume they'll just give it to some random driver and call the driver Repo Man or something like that. And that's honestly fine by me. I mean, Emilio Estevez hasn't done anything in a while. We'll probably see Junkyard Dog in a single battle for a bit, maybe. They could even do a gag where Junkyard Dog, tows a contestant's car without them seeing, and now that character has to run on foot till they can get their car back. That's really pretty much all the story a Junkyard Dog really deserves. So obviously, every time that I mentioned battling, remember that the second trailer showed it more as like a death race scenario. Otherwise, I'm happy to see that my shitty eyesight aside, I was correct, and Junkyard Dog was a tow truck. If you look closely, even though it has the paint job from the 2012 Twisted Metal, this Junkyard Dog does have the spiked ball in the back, like the Twisted Metal Black's Junkyard Dog. We didn't see the driver yet, so maybe they really did stick a Billy Ray Stillwell behind the wheel. The next people we see in the trailer is the Dollface group. Now, I don't have the foggiest idea what they'll be driving, except for a single moment where we see them on the back of what looks like a flatbed or something. Who can say? There's not much to go on. As far as story goes, though, I assume the Dollfaces are going to be the B plot for the season. The A plot, of course, being the tournament, and the C plot being John Doe earning his freedom from Raven. As far as story beats, the most I'm hoping for is for the Dollfaces to act kind of like Carrie Fisher did in the Blues Brothers, where they show up, blow something up, and then move on, constantly putting pressure and drama on the main cast without eating up too much screen time. I already kind of mentioned Dollface herself earlier, but with her, I'm expecting a drag-out, multi-episode story where they get along, they don't get along, yes they do, no they don't, etc., etc., etc. Just like we saw with John Doe and Quiet in Season 1. That's how you manage to fill a whole season of Twisted Metal without having to film any actual car action. I assume it'll be something like she's looking for him because she wants her brother back in his life, but he'll find her to be too domineering or maybe even ruthless for his liking. Like she'll try and give him rules because she wants to protect him, but it drives him further away because he just wants to be free. She'll try her best to make up and win him over, but her and the other Dollfaces are just too cruel or creepy for him. Until finally, in a dramatic moment, she'll need help and he'll save her because they're family. Something simple like that, you know, that cheesy cliche shit. Trailer 2 didn't do anything for Dollface or the Dollfaces, really. The Dollface gang doesn't even appear in the second trailer, only Dollface herself on an ATV. The only thing that I can add is that thanks to some leaks, we have a few pictures, and we found out that Dollface's name is Krista, which you'll see later in this video, really breaks my heart. Next, we see Mr. Grimm, and I gotta say, as much as I like them trying to reference the Red Skull look of Twisted Metal 1, the White Skull just looks so much better. We see Mr. Grimm riding an old motorcycle in the trailer, and you know what? I'm totally okay with Mr. Grimm riding an older bike. I'm a Twisted Metal 2 diehard, but Mr. Grimm just looks so much better on an old Harley or Triumph as opposed to the red Suzuki of Twisted Metal 2. I even agree that the no sidecar looks cleaner. Looks cleaner. Story-wise, I think it's safe to assume Mr. Grimm will play a big role in the season, perhaps even bigger than Axel will. A constant antagonist that will be putting pressure on our protagonist throughout the season. We saw Mr. Grimm in the trailer sucking souls and shit, so that's a pretty major threat compared to people driving cars with guns. If he's going to be the actual Mr. Grimm Reaper as opposed to just a cannibal or something, then I see him making it all the way to the end of the season as an antagonist. Then again, Mr. Grimm along with Axel could both just appear for a few episodes each and be done. The writers could always just do that shit to us, I guess. That'd be a big Mr. Slam-sized dick in the ass for everyone excited to see some of their favorite Twisted Metal characters doing stuff in the show. Well, good news! The way the tournament appears to run in the second trailer means we should be seeing a lot of Mr. Grimm and even Axel. It even appears Mr. Grimm and Sweet Tooth have some sort of beef or history, which is great to see an antagonist hated by everyone. It makes him feel just that much more daunting of an opponent, even though he's just on a bike. They even made him out to be even more of a badass when he parries one of Sweet Tooth's rockets with his scythe. The next character we see, I was so excited when I first saw them, till I remembered the writing of Season 1. Then I started feeling pretty doomed. That's because our next character was an unnamed younger redhead girl in a green jacket, all of which screams to me as Krista Sparks, aka Grasshopper from Twisted Metal 2 and Head On. Now, unfortunately, we have no clue if it actually is Krista Sparks, nor do we see what vehicle she's driving, so I won't waste time with speculation and we'll just move on. As far as storyline implications, one of my all-time favorite Twisted Metal endings was Grasshopper's in Twisted Metal 2, where the LAPD rebuilt her body after her death to include a bomb, hoping she would get close enough to Calypso to detonate it and kill him. Now, guaranteed, we're not getting that, even with the second season taking on less realistic aspects like Axel's vehicle or Mr. Grimm's soul eating. So what will we get? Assuming it is Krista Sparks, they could probably do a story arc where she seems too young and helpless for this tournament, so one of our antagonists takes her under their wing. But she's actually more capable than they thought, and she shows her true colors at the end, perhaps with evil intentions. I mean, who the fuck knows, really? This is the textbook definition of speculation. This whole video is. I just hope they do something kind of emotional for one of the only characters that actually had an emotional ending in the games. Then again, the show took the tough and resourceful Roberts siblings and turned them into incestuous dummies. So fuck it. Holy fuck. Past Me just earned a shitload of points. So starting with the second trailer, we see that clearly Quiet and John Doe are worried for the girl, even decommissioning her vehicle so she can't compete, thus keeping her out of harm's way. And through the power of deduction, the vehicle she was going to use appears to be the souped-up Volkswagen Beetle, as we saw it in the garage pre-fight, but not on the runway fighting the others. Then, when we take a look at some of the leaks, we find out that unfortunately she is not Krista Sparks, but is instead named Mayhem. We even have a picture of what looks like her and Quiet using the El Camino together. So, pretty close overall to what I was saying, although not Krista Sparks, which honestly is probably just better that way. Our next character confused the fuck out of me. And that was because the next character is clearly supposed to be Raven from Twisted Metal Black, complete with the Wiccan necklace, voodoo dolls, and pouty kissable lips. The problem with this is that we already have a character named Raven in the TV show, even with her own Wiccan necklace and Easter eggs referencing Twisted Metal Black. I'm talking about the Gilmore Girls looking lady who runs New San Francisco. And if that wasn't confusing enough, the purple hearse that Raven drives in Twisted Metal Black, aka Shadow, well, they blew that cocksucker up with the Roberts siblings to the side doing their best Looney Tunes impression. So you now have this character whose name and vehicle have both already been used in Season 1. And I have no clue how the fuck they plan to explain this. Story-wise, who the fuck knows, honestly? I know I don't. I'm still too hung up on two different Ravens existing at once to even start to try and figure out potential storylines for her. It would be cool if they used the voodoo dolls in like a legitimate way, kind of like they did in Black, where Raven used the voodoo dolls to kill the two guys who drowned her soulmate. But you could just see it on the actress's face that she clearly comes from a comedic background. So I don't expect anything dark like you should get with a Raven character. Here's an idea for this goth queen. Why doesn't John Doe hook up with her and he ditches that bitch Quiet for shooting him? That sounds like a good story, huh? Let's move on. Woo, past me was salty, huh? Anyway, we didn't see our Raven doppelganger in the second trailer, but we do have some more info thanks to our leaks. Apparently, according to the leaks, which seem to be accurate as far as I can tell, this character is not Raven, but is actually called True Raven, which is fucking lame. She is the actual leader of New San Francisco, and she employs other Ravens, like the one we saw in Season 1, to act on her behalf. Unfortunately, we still don't know why or even what she's driving. But that's how we explain away the double Raven thing, I guess. I'd really rather they didn't, but oh well, we're in it now. Makes me want to drown myself like Raven's scissor sister, Kelly. The final notable face in the Season 2 trailer is Stu. I fucking hated Mike and Stu in Twisted Metal 2, and I hated them even more in Season 1 of the TV show. I was quite happy when it looked like Sweet Tooth killed them in the last episode, but it looks like he only dragged Stu away and somehow Stu lived. That said, Stu and Mike drove the Hammerhead monster truck in Twisted Metal 2, and that thing fucking ruled. If you somehow manage to put that blubbering bitch Stu behind the wheel of Hammerhead, it could go a long way to saving that character for me. Story-wise, if Mike is dead, Stu will need to avenge him. Stu's whole story in Season 1 was him finding a backbone, and by the end of the season, he was still kind of a bitch.
I think I skinned my wang.
So have Stu go full badass and have him literally crush his opponents in the tournament with a Hammerhead. That is really the only solid story I can think of with him at this point. He needs to finally grow a spine, and he needs to somehow kill Sweet Tooth to get his revenge. Which, let's be real, that shit ain't gonna happen. Brutal update from here in the future. We see Stu in the second trailer, and he's simply back to being Sweet Tooth's lackey. Now sure, maybe as the season goes along he does get his revenge. But he looks pretty happy here on Team Sweet Tooth, so fuck it. So we're getting to the end here, but I still have a couple more characters we need to discuss, because there was characters who were featured in the tournament at the end of Season 1. So let's talk them now. First up is Bloody Mary, who we saw took a hatchet to the chest from Quiet in Episode 7 of Season 1, thus leading to us all believing she was killed. And yet, as contestants were added to the tournament board in Episode 10, she is one of the faces we see. Now, Bloody Mary is the driver of Spectre in Twisted Metal Black, and also shares a name with the famous Bloody Mary ghost story. So, putting that all together, It's no real stretch of the imagination to assume she's a fucking ghost. I mean, we saw Mr. Grimm do his soul-eating thing, so all the reality they tried going for in Season 1 is out the fucking window. There are also many different Spectre vehicles to choose from, with all of them being pretty fucking good. So just choose one and throw her ghost ass into it. For the story, all she has is her revenge on Quiet for killing her back at Mr. Slam's bar. So I'm left to assume she'll simply appear around mid-season without warning, and our protagonist will be in disbelief that she's still alive. Maybe they'll think she's a ghost, but in reality, she just managed to survive the hatch attack. Or maybe it's the opposite, and they can't figure out how she survived when in reality, she is a ghost. Either works fine for a 2-episode story arc, then you can have Mr. Grimm ride on in and suck her down like a 2-piece combo from Popeyes. So I'm sure y'all saw it, right? In the second trailer, sure it wasn't an American muscle car, but that Audi's paint job was so distinctly Spectre. What's really cool is that it looks really well equipped too, compared to some of the other vehicles we've seen. That said though, no confirmation on who's driving it, but you've heard my case for why it's probably going to be Bloody Mary. Speaking of Episode 7, we saw Angela Fortin at the end of the episode contacting Agent Stone as John Doe and Quiet drove away from Mr. Slams. Since she's still alive, I'd love to see her in Season 2. She can drive the Pit Viper camo dune buggy and somehow use acid to attack people. Maybe by throwing fucking water balloons full of snake venom from her pet snake she milks, or some other weird half-comedic shit like that.
Don't touch me, you snake squeezer.
Story-wise, though, I just can't expect much if she did appear. She was an informant for Agent Stone who was fucking worm food by this point. So unless she has now switched her allegiance to Calypso, like how Revolver Ocelot bounced around at the end of each Metal Gear Solid game, I don't see what she can do to add to the story besides just being another character from the games to kill in the tournament. What? Why are you looking at me? That was 100% speculation on my part. I mean, Angela Fortin appeared in no trailers, nor did she even appear at the end of Season 1. I'm just saying, she's out there, she exists, might as well use her. The next contestant featured at the end of Season 1 was Miranda Watts, who drives the Formula race car called Twister. I enjoyed the final fight scene at the end of Season 1, and Twister was a big part of it. I did have one nitpick, though, and it's part of why a realistic Twisted Metal was always going to be hard to do. It's the fact that Twister really only has 2 machine guns and speed on its side, which, fair enough. I'd hate to see them do something where, like, Twister does a donut so fast it causes a small tornado or some horse shit, but it would be cooler to see something more offensive from Twister. It's the same problem I have with ATV or Mr. Grimm's bike, as they're all vehicles that lack both offense and defense. I can't imagine Miranda Watts playing into the major storyline too much. They'll have more than enough characters to work with for that. We know one thing they left open last season was when Sweet Tooth killed Tinker in his crossfire with Agent Stone. So, add Miranda Watts to the list of people who have a bone to pick with Sweet Tooth. Another cool idea I just pulled fresh out of my ass would be the trucker convoy versus the Dollfaces. In the trailer, we do see a couple of shots that look like some girl boss type shit being settled, so it'd be cool to have the 2 large factions warring in the background of the tournament. Unfortunately, no sign of Twister in the second trailer, although that probably guarantees that we're going to have multiple fights going on at once. Maybe. Now, there are a lot of characters in this tournament who we're just not seeing in this fight, so hopefully they show those other events. I would really hate for them to all happen off screen. That would fucking blow. Speaking of people who got blown up in the Juggernaut by Sweet Tooth, there was a driver who was sneakily shown as a tournament competitor at the end of the last season, and that was Amber Rose. Now let's face it, I just said Amber Rose, and a lot of you probably just asked, who? I'm sure to a lot of us, she is simply just called Flower Power. So that's what I'm going to call her. Now, I don't really have a clue what she'll drive since she's now part of the trucker convoy. But we did see a very souped up Volkswagen Beetle. I know that's not quite the same as an old Volvo hatchback, but we did see an old white Volkswagen Beetle in her garden in Season 1. It's also a stretch since I didn't see any flower designs on the Beetle in the trailer. But who can say for sure? I mean, I already said my eyes suck. Story-wise, they're not going to give Flower Power anything to do by herself without Miranda and the rest of the trucker convoy. Not unless they do something like her and Miranda disagree on what to wish for if they win the tournament, which forces them to face off against each other before realizing that Tinker wouldn't have wanted this. Then we get a whole episode of them scissoring in a McDonald's play place in reference to the first season. Yeah, no. We already discussed why that Volkswagen wasn't hers, and she doesn't appear at all in the second trailer, so let's move on. And finally, the last competitor on Calypso's board at the end of Season 1 is the Preacher. Vehicle-wise, I don't recall that car fucker having a signature vehicle in the first season.
Oh my god, are you a bunch of car fuckers?
Hence why he was going to car fuck John Doe's Subaru.
We're only guilty of a love for which there is no name.
Oh, there's a name actually. It's called car fucking!
In Twisted Metal Black, Preacher's vehicle was an El Camino, which is noticeable because we briefly see what appears to be an El Camino in the trailer, although it shares absolutely no similarities to the El Camino in Black. Still interesting though. Preacher I can actually see getting some decent screen time, because not only do we have the storyline of John Doe wanting to get back at him for the Subaru exploding, but I'm sure something has to happen between a preacher who leads a gang of bikers and a Grim Reaper who rides a motorcycle. They could do something like Mr. Grimm is the ultimate leader of the Holy Men biker gang, or even just use the preacher to show how strong Mr. Grimm is by having him and the rest of the Holy Men scared of him. Or fuck it even, just have Mr. Grimm kill the preacher. Real simple. So no preacher updates, but we can talk about that El Camino for a second. In the first trailer for Season 2, we were safely able to see the green El Camino in the top left, but had nothing else to work with. In the second trailer for Season 2, we see it out and driving, and it appears to be manned by dudes in bike helmets and leathers with horns and shit, which to me seems pretty on brand for the Holy Men. And in place of something like a giant cross in the back, we have a giant crossbow instead. No confirmations though, this is just continued speculation on my part using the newer views of the vehicle. We've still yet to see the preacher in either trailer yet, and Jason Mantzoukas' IMDb does not show him in Season 2, so we might just not get a preacher. One additional vehicle that I saw in the second trailer for Season 2 was a pizza delivery vehicle. Now, I know what you're thinking here. I'm going to put my shots and my proof up on screen and try to follow along with me here. First, it's a car with a topper. Now, there are many different kinds of vehicles that use toppers, sure, but it looks to me like a shitty Pontiac Grand Am. And no Grand Am in history was ever used as a taxi, a pilot truck, a traffic control vehicle, or any other work vehicle that holds authority on the road. Meanwhile, there are more shitbox Pontiacs behind your city's pizza joints than in your city's scrapyards. That's a fact. So I went ahead and checked back to see what happened to Pizza Boy in the fight at Mr. Slam's bar. And we see John Doe turn Pizza Boy's face into fucking pizza sauce with a case. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I just hope they don't try and make it a taxi, because now you're stepping on Yellow Jacket's toes, and they already made a great reference to Yellow Jacket last season. Plus, when the fuck have you ever seen a Pontiac Grand Am taxi? This second trailer, or teaser, or preview, whatever you want to call it, has been so clutch as far as getting me back and interested in this show. My biggest gripe with the first season was that it didn't have enough car action in it. We even did the math, and it was something like 6 minutes of car action across 10 episodes, with 4 of those minutes being just in the last episode alone. Now, the second trailer alone already has 20% of the car action we got in the first season, and it felt way more Twisted Metal with the group of cars, the explosions, and the appropriate soundtrack. No offense to Cake, but the only time I want to hear Cake is when my girl's suffocating me with hers. That second trailer single-handedly changed me from going into the second season like I was preparing to watch a beheading, to now I'm actually kind of hopeful that, it might be enjoyable. I guess the ball is now back in Sony's court with this one. And with that said, we can finally end this video. I was working on a completely different video, and really for a long time been working on it. And then I was like, I should probably do something. The second season Twisted Metal. So I put that one on pause, and I did the Twisted Metal Season 2 prediction video. And I'm getting to the end of it, and then boom, here comes the second trailer. I'm like, oh fuck. Now I gotta redo it again. So all of it's done now, it's behind me. I can go back to the original video and get that put out. Hopefully something you guys will more enjoy. But with that said, I thank you for watching. If you like any of my content, or just want to support me in any way, a simple like and a subscribe goes a long way for me in growing my channel. I very much appreciate that. Till the next video, have yourself a good one.
I am Calypso, and I thank you for playing Twisted Metal.